Welcome back to another edition of the RPO College Football Podcast, your favorite college football podcast. As you already know, I'm your host, Jerome Jones, and I'm here with the man, the Mr. Legend. Y'all already know who he is, my guy, Mr. Ray Roberts. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, Jerome. How are you?
Doing good. It's that much closer. I can feel it. It's that much closer.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
I'm getting excited. August is right around the corner. High school football is about to start down here in Georgia soon. In the next, I think 2, maybe 3 weeks. We got
hmm
college football going to be on. I think that one is the end of August, and then we got the NFL, which is second week in September. So we're almost there, man. Training camp just started for a lot of NFL teams this week as well. So it's exciting to at least have some kind of news and kind of activity going on. How are you feeling about everything with the Dolphins, Notre Dame, all that? How are you feeling right now with everything kind of starting up?
Notre Dame, I want to be optimistic. Of course, I think they're going to be okay. I think the Dolphins will be okay too. Of course, they have the whole Tua thing, contract thing hanging over their heads. But you know what, dude? I look at it like he's under contract for 2 more years. If he wants to sign a new contract, he can. If they want to sign him to a new contract, that's fine. I don't want to overpay him, but they can do whatever they want. Him and his camp should be glad I don't run the team because I would trade him, but that's me.
Yeah, I mean, me and Ray had this conversation for a while, so I definitely know your stance on that for sure. But
Dude, I'm a fan of the kid. I am.
yeah,
I think he's a good player. I am completely off, and I know people and Ryan, my son, and everybody argues with me. Well, it's the new market. No, the new market is not. I'm paying the fifth best quarterback or the sixth best quarterback more than the first best quarterback. I don't care when their contract came up. I'm not doing it. I don't know another walk of life where you pay the fifth or the 10th best player more than the first best. Who does that?
I agree.
But again, they can do what they want. They're playing hardball with them. I'm actually glad they are doing that, to be honest with you. If I had my way, I would trade him.
Yeah.
I would trade him and Tyreek Hill. I would. Tired of hearing guys. I'm tired of hearing millionaires cry like babies. I really am. Tired of it.
Definitely, man. Well,
I trade two to the Saints right now for Derek Carr and a first round pick, like that.
hey,
Trade Tyreek Hill to the Washington Redskins for Terry McLaurin and 2 picks right now if they want me to.
I hear you. Well, definitely a situation where if that would happen, I'm sure there'll be a lot of uproar about it. But as you guys already know, we are a college football podcast, so we're going to stick to college for now. But before we get to our teams and everything we're going to be covering today, I want to give a big shout out and a thanks to our sponsors, Phenom. Phenom, thank you for allowing us to have the podcast. Oh, look at Molly. Molly's part of the sponsorship as well. We get sponsored by Molly as well. That's AT Ray's dog right there. But Phenom is we're sponsored by Phenom. Great products. As you see right here, they got mouthpieces, they got gloves. So you get different types of gloves. They got specialty gloves like the Kool-Aid one. They got plain colored ones like neon green. One of my favorites because it's my favorite color. The blue one. And I like to put it on because it's so comfortable. It's on really easy. Got breathable air pockets so your hand won't get all sweaty. Stickability is there as you see. So it'll definitely help you with your catching. And the football season's coming up, so you definitely want to make sure that you get your gear as soon as possible. They got cleats and everything like that on it as well. So if you go to phenomelitebrand.com, you can get all that great gear plus more. I'm only showing you a snippet of what they have. They got a lot of good stuff, and they're still producing a lot of good stuff. So make sure you check out the website for all the newest things. And when you're on that website and you purchase them, go to the promo code and put in inside RPH football. You get 10% off. Save you some money, and you will look good for the season. So look good, play good, do good. and get rewarded for it. So make sure you go to PhenomEliteBrand.com, get your 10% off using our promo code, and that really does help and support us. So thank you, Phenom, for sponsoring the podcast. All right, let's get right into it, Ray. Last week we started our series. Last week we were reviewing teams individually, just to kind of go over it, what we thought about the teams. We go over the players, who we think are good players on the team, things like that. So we're gonna do the same thing this week, and we're gonna probably do that all the way into college football, the actual game. So we got a little rundown of the teams right here. And the first thing we're gonna talk about is NC State. My thing up. There you go. NC State. So NC State is a team that was. Let me get their record real quick. They were
9-4.
9-4. So not a bad year last year. Pretty good year in the ACC. They were 6-2 in the conference, which was actually really, really good. And they landed number 3 in the conference. So pretty good year last year. Ray, what's your thought on the performance last year?
I think they had a solid year last year. They beat some teams they probably shouldn't have beaten, and they lost to some teams maybe they did. You know what? Honestly, if I look at their schedule from last year, the games they won and the games they lost, I think they had a pretty good year. I mean, they lost to Notre Dame, they lost to Louisville, they lost to Duke, and they lost to Kansas State. Close games at Kansas State, not a very good. The Duke game, they lost 24-3. Probably their worst loss of the year.
Yeah, Duke was having some good wins last year, so I can't blame them for losing to Duke. Duke had some surprising wins. Obviously, Leonard Raleigh, the guy now playing for Notre Dame, Ray, played really well last year and got him a chance to play at a higher prestige college. So, they had a good year. So you can't knock them too much for losing to Duke. On paper, if you don't know anything about how Duke played last year, like, they lost to Duke because, Duke was never a good team. But they had a really solid year last year. So
no, Duke was a solid team, and it's not they lost when they scored 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the bad part about it. So
yeah, definitely. But we're gonna get into it. So let's talk about the team now, who they got right now. And I always like to start off with the quarterback because the quarterback is the biggest position. Obviously, want to get paid, they want to get the big bucks, they want to get all the glory. And actually, they just got a transfer in, a guy that I'm very familiar with, and I know you are too, Ray. Grayson McCall, who used to be the quarterback at Coastal Carolina. He was actually going to transfer last year, or wanted to stay in at Coastal Carolina. Had I would say a less impressive year last year for Coastal Carolina. He had a really impressive first 2 years. First 3 years, I think it was, with Coastal. And then last year he had a okay year. Also a lot of pieces. He did lose a lot of pieces. So now he's transferred now to NC State. Gonna be his first year there. A guy that I think after his freshman year, we both was like, I think he could be a first round pick. What's your thoughts about Grayson McCall here? Now with that he's at NC State, got a lot more weapons, a lot more to improve. What's your thoughts on him?
I'm a fan. I think he's a good, solid quarterback. I like the fact that they actually brought running back Jordan Waters from Coastal Carolina to play with him.
Yeah.
And they also got Noah Rogers from a transfer from Iowa State at wide receiver. So they're trying to give him some players around them. And I think Grayson McCall is a good quarterback, so I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, I was going to talk about Noah Rogers. Really good player, coming out of high school. He was a redshirt freshman. Now he's transferred over here. It's a good option for them to have a guy of that caliber on the team. He's still young, so we're going to see how he does as far as developing. But from what I'm hearing, he's doing a really good job. Anybody else kind of sticks out to you in the offense, though?
Well, I like their offensive line because they have 2 seniors playing there, and they got Zeke Corral, who actually played at Notre Dame 2 years ago. And I think he's a good interior offensive line. He's going to play center for them. So they have a veteran offensive line, including Zeke Corral and Anthony Belton and Anthony Carter and Jarius Peak. who, again, all veteran players. So I think they're going to be pretty good. Honestly, I think they're going to be better than they were last year, to be honest with you.
I do too. I do too. I really like the addition of Grayson McCall. I think it's going to help them, and they pay a lot of, like you said, a lot of people around them. Solid offensive line. They should be a good team this year. We're going to look at their schedule right after this. So let's get into their defense. Defense is a lot of returning players, a lot of players that's been on the team already. Only got two transfers, their nickel and their safety. But everybody else been on the team last year. What's your thoughts on their defense as a whole, Ray?
I mean, I like Devin Van, their senior defensive end, and I like Aiden White, their one corner. I think really they're the standout players on their defense. Of course, they lost Peyton Wilson, and that's going to be a big loss. I think they're going to their defense may probably be around the same, but I think their offense is going to be better. So I think they're going to be a better team.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's not a ton of huge name guys on the defense, but they're good, solid guys. They're good, a good unit. And they already all play together. So this is a team that, kind of already knows about each other. Devin Hoffman is probably the biggest highlight. That defense being the new safety there, but I think he's gonna fit them really well. Where did he come from again? Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt, yes.
Yeah, Vanderbilt. Yeah, so a guy from Vanderbilt, I think he's gonna be doing a good job in there as well. But yeah, I think this defensive unit is a good one. Not too many freshmen. I mean, you got one freshman at the strong linebacker position. But outside of that, everybody's pretty much veterans. The other youngest one is a sophomore, Brandon Cecil, but everybody else is seniors, a junior, a couple of juniors on the D line and the linebacker spot. You got Devin Van as a senior on the D line, but everybody else is upperclassmen. So I think that with their experience is going to help them out a lot for sure.
I think that once they get their feet underneath them on their defensive backfield, which, except for one guy, are all new players. They're all players that were back from last year, but they're guys that weren't starting last year. But I think they're going to be. I think their defense will improve as the season goes on, and I think their offense is going to be better. So,
yeah, I agree. All right, let's get into their schedule now, Ray. So going into this year, the first game is going to be against Western Carolina. The game after that is going to be home versus Tennessee. They're going to be home versus La Tech. They're going to be away versus Clemson. Home versus Northern Illinois. Home versus Wake Forest. Home versus Syracuse. Away for Cal. Home versus Stanford. Home versus Duke. And then the last two games of the season will be away versus Georgia Tech and UNC. So looking at that, Ray, what is your prediction for them for this year?
I think they're going to be like a 9-win team, maybe a 10-win team this year. Again, I think that their offense is going to be better. I don't know how they're going to replace Peyton Wilson because he's very good last year for them. But it's just a matter of getting some continuity on their defense. I think they're going to be better than last year.
Yeah.
I mean, they have the two games at the end of the year, Georgia Tech and North Carolina, are both fairly tough games. But besides for that, though, except for Tennessee and Clemson, there's no one on their schedule they can't beat.
Yeah, no, I agree. I might even say Clemson might be a team they can possibly beat still. Tennessee, I think, is going to be the hardest game. I really think Tennessee is going to be the hardest game.
Yes.
But, yeah, I agree with you, right? I'm giving them – I pick between 9 and 10. My biggest ones is Tennessee. I don't think they're going to beat Tennessee. I think Clemson is a team that they can beat, but they will beat them. And then the last game of the season is their next toughest test, in my opinion, which is UNC. Wake Forest is an upcoming team. They could kind of sneak up on them. Duke had a good year last year. They lost a lot of pieces, though, so I can't really see that. But yeah, outside of that, man, it's not really too much. Now, maybe like Cal might sneak up on them. They home though for that. I mean, no, they're away for that. So I think could be a game that might sneak up on them because to go on the other side of the country to face them. So that might be what the issue is with that. But outside of that, Red, I'm going to give them 9 to 10 wins, right around what they had last year, with a possibility being even better than that, depending on scenario. So
my only concern about the Clemson game would be two. For one, it's away.
Yeah.
Two, they beat Clemson. They beat Clemson last year.
Yeah.
And we're expecting Clemson to be better because they need to be better.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, I agree. So Tennessee, Clemson, and possibly UNC are their toughest games, I think, with a couple of teams in there that could sprinkle in maybe a couple of a win or a loss, which are kind of like, close to them. But I really do think Grayson McCall is going to be the biggest catalyst to this team. I'm really curious to see how he does this year because, like I said, outside of last year, he had a really good career. So I want to see how he does with an improved offensive line, also, a little bit better linemen because, one of the biggest things about Coastal Carolina, and it's been forever, is that they had a small offensive line. Just what they had probably the smallest offensive line in the country. So being able to have some bigger hogs back there and helping them out, I think that would definitely help them for sure.
Again, I love the fact that they brought Jordan Walters with them too, because if you don't know, he was actually very good last year.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
100%. All right. So with that being said, let's get to our next team. Let me find them on here real quick by time. And that will be the Kansas Jayhawks, which is right here. Perfect. All right. So Kansas is going to be our next team that we're going to be talking about today. Last year, Kansas was a whopping 9-4, surprising year for them. I don't think a lot of people knew they were going to be a 9-4 team. I think the biggest issues they had was in the conference. They went 5-4, so they got to improve conference play. The good thing about them is that they don't have to worry about Texas and Oklahoma. That's the biggest thing. So that's going to be a huge thing for them. This could be a year that kind of helps them out with that. But yeah, I want to know what you think. What's your thoughts on last year's performance from them last year?
I think they were a solid team. Like they scored some points. Believe it or not, they actually beat Oklahoma last year.
Yeah.
We're expecting them to score points. Lance Lingold, their coach, is a good offensive mind. He's a good coach. So I think they're going to be pretty good.
100%. So let's get into the roster, and obviously, like I said, I always like to go to the quarterback. Jalen Daniels, everybody is expecting a big move and big things out of him this year. Had a really big year last year. He's actually just coming off an injury. So, they say he's ready, he's healthy, he's ready to go. What's your thoughts on Jalen Daniels?
I'm a fan of the kid. I think he's a good player. Actually, he's like one of the top players in his conference. He's rated as the second best quarterback in his conference.
Yeah.
So he's a good player. I think it's going to come down to Devin Neal. I expect a big year from him. If he has a big year, he'll become the team's all-time leading rusher. So I think that's going to be nice for them. I think that they brought in Logan Brown from wide receiver from Wisconsin. So they need offensive line from lineman got wide receiver in my mind. They brought in an offensive lineman. So I think that's going to help them out. He's a five-star prospect, so I think he's a good player. And as we know, you add an offensive lineman or two, especially one of that stature, that can really beef up your offensive line and help you out.
I agree. Now, from what I we're not sponsored with them or any affiliation, but I use ourlads.com to look at the roster. I think they have a good updated roster depth chart on their website, so I'll use them. They actually have Logan Brown as the backup right now. So Bryce Kibulu, they have him penciled as the starter right Now he is a senior, so maybe that's why they have him right there. Maybe it's a closer battle than we think. So as of right now, they have him as worked out. But yeah, um,
I think it's just a matter of him winning the spot, but I expect him to win the spot. So
definitely. Let's get into the receivers. The weapons. We already talked about Devin Neal being an all-star running back for them. Jalen Daniels being a quarterback that's going to be able to distribute the ball. But let's talk about the weapons that they got. Obviously, they got senior Casey at tight end, Luke Grimm at a wide receiver, Quentin Skinner at wide receiver, and also Lawrence Arnold. Any of those guys kind of stand up to you as far as
I
impact?
like Arnold and Grimm only because they were starters last year and they were both fairly productive.
Yeah,
I think Skinner is a nice player also, and they're all seniors, so they all should be on the same page. So that's always a good thing.
yeah, they're all their weapons on offense are all seniors, every last one of them.
Yeah.
So the only underclassmen you got on that offense is the offensive lineman, Calvin Clemens. So you got a lot of veteran guys that should know what to do on offense for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. All right, I get to the defense, Ray. Tell me some guys that kind of stand out to you. I already know about Kobe Bryant, but any other kind of names that kind of like stand out to you?
Honestly, I honestly think they have like two of the best corners in their conference in Brian and Mello Dotson. I think they're both good football players. I think they both play together. I think that again. I think in the Big 12, that's probably if they're not the best duo, they're right up there. So
I'm saying, yeah, they're a big team, a big duo. Obviously they had a lot of success last year. Both seniors this year, so it's going to be their last years, unless some way to get some kind of eligibility to stay. But they're gonna excuse me, they're gonna want to really maximize their playing time and what they're doing over there in Kansas. What about the defensive line, Ray? What's your thoughts on them?
they don't have anybody outstanding there. I think Jerome Robinson is a solid player. DJ Withers is a junior who's a solid player. But they do have DJ Warner and Dekius Brinkley, who are both freshmen that people are expecting some big things from them. So hopefully they'll get on the field sooner than later and help out their defense.
100%, 100%. Right now, I don't have them penciled in as starters, but they can be definitely something on future.
Neither do I. I don't. They really don't even show on their roster yet because they're just recruits. But again, if you read between the tea leaves and what the coaches are saying down there, that they're expecting them to come in at least as some pass rush as situational guys. So we'll see.
Definitely, we will see because they're gonna need it. They got a lot of veterans on that defense as well. So, this is the year for this Kansas team, man. They got a lot of veterans. They're gonna have a lot of turnover next year. So we're gonna have to see how things play out this year because with all those, they're gonna have a lot of new pieces next year.
I think Lance Leipold, their coach, is a solid coach, but I think it's a big season for him.
100%, 100%, 100%. I agree with that. All right, let's get to their season schedule record and here. The first game is gonna be playing against Landon. Next one is gonna be Illinois, UNLV. By the way, the first game is gonna be home. The Illinois game is gonna be away. UNLV is gonna be at home as well. West Virginia is gonna be at West Virginia. They're gonna be home versus TCU. Home versus Arizona State. Away for Arizona State. Home for Houston. Away for Kansas State. Rivalry game right there. They're gonna be home versus Iowa State. Away for BYU. Home for Colorado, and then away for Baylor to close the season out. So, with that being said, Ray, what's your thoughts on the season?
I'm seeing about the same kind of a record, though. To be honest with you, Jerome, I think that 9-10 wins is probably the ceiling there. I think they'll win at least 8 or 9 games, though, at the least. I think the game against TCU is a tough game, At West Virginia is a tough game because West Virginia has a good defense.
Mm-hmm.
So West Virginia for them is a tough game.
Yeah.
Illinois is a tough game.
Yeah.
But after that, I don't see anybody in there. Houston will be a fun game because they'll both score some points.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah.
At Kansas State, that's a tough game for them because it's an in-division rival or in-conference and in-state rival.
Yeah.
So that's a tough game for them. And I think if Colorado is better like we think they're going to be, I think that's a tough game also. So
yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna say the tough game for me is Colorado for sure. I think K-State for all the reasons you said. Houston's gonna be tough. I think West Virginia is gonna be a tough one. Illinois could be a tough one. I think actually they're pretty the same. I think I'm gonna give a slight edge to Kansas in that one though. But other than that, like what you said, Ray, very similar to what they had last year in 9 wins.
Well, I mean, if you look last year, they actually beat Kansas State last year. So
Yeah. And Kansas State is not a bad team. I think that
they're not. And again, that'll be another fun game because both of them teams usually score some points. So
understand. So I think that around another 9 to 10 win team. I think that's what we're looking at right now with that. And I think that it's going to be an interesting year for them for sure. Obviously they will want to be a little bit better than a 9-win team. This is a team I think that they feel like they can get in the playoffs. I think this team really had that confidence in them. Really feel like we can get to that next level. It's all about executing at this point with them, though.
I think the biggest thing for them is Jalen Daniels staying healthy this season. That's going to be huge for them. So
correct. Yes. And like I said in the beginning of this, they should be good to go. He should be good to go as far as staying healthy and all that. But we'll definitely see because again, he's going to be a driving force for them, and a lot of people have high hopes for this year for sure. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Ray, let's get to our next team. That is going to be the Oregon Ducks. Now, the Oregon Ducks are in a new conference. Obviously, they're going to be in the Big Ten conference. But last year, when they were in the Pac-12, they were 12-2. Ray. So let's talk about last year, Ray. What's your thoughts on how they were last year?
They had a good year last year. Oregon was a good team. They were exciting to watch. Of course, they had a different quarterback, but I mean, I just don't know exactly what to expect. Even though I'm a big Dylan Gabriel fan, so I think he's going to be a good player, and I think their offense is going to be pretty good still.
Understand. Yeah, I think I agree with you, Ray. I think they're going to be this team's going to be a fast team. They've done a really good job as far as recruiting. They're still recruiting really well. They got a lot of young talent on the team, man. We're going to get into the actual individual players in a second. But if you look at it, man, this is Dylan Gabriel's chance to really show what he can do. Last year is going to be his last year with the team because he's a senior. He's actually a redshirt senior, so eligibility wise, I don't think he's going to be able to come back next year. So it's a big year for him, especially the fact that they got Dante Moore late in the wing. A guy that's going to be kind of in the background watching. If something goes wrong, he's going to want to step up. And Dante Moore, this is the team that he initially wanted to play for. Then he flipped and wound up not going to UCLA. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes because Dante Moore, I'm sure he's going to be trying his best to win the starting job. So as of right now, Dylan Gabriel's the guy. So what's your thoughts on the quarterback position in general, Ray, with Dante Moore and Gabriel being at the spot?
I think Moore actually has more physical talent. Yeah. I do, but I think Gabriel is a system guy who functions very well in the system that he's going to be put in, no matter where he plays. Dante Moore's a talented kid. I just don't know what to think about him anymore because he changes his mind the way I change my socks. So it's hard to pinpoint what he's going to be. Yeah. But I do like the wide receivers. I think Tez Johnson who actually is the all-time leading receiver at Oregon now. Evan Stewart is a good player. I like him also. And they brought in the wide receiver at Texas A&M, Evan Stewart. So they're loaded at the wide receiver spot.
Yeah, and that's not even including their backups. They got, Tyler Gasper. They got Jerron Dickey, who's a guy that, we interviewed, is a really good receiver, just waiting his turn. We got Justice Lowe, a really highly recruited player. Jeremiah McClain, another really highly guarded player, coming out in last year's draft. Recruiting class. I think he was a 5-star, if I'm not mistaken. So they are loaded at the receiver position. Somebody goes down, they'll be fine.
No, I
think
think
reduction, but they'll be fine. It won't be a huge drop off with the wide receiver position.
I think the wide receivers are going to be good. I think the quarterback is a good player. Yeah. I expect their offense you got to remember, they did average 530 yards last year, 44 points a game. Right. So it's not like I'm not a huge Bo Nix guy, but he put numbers up for sure. So.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And then let's talk about the running back position because Noah James is a very fast and agile running back. What's your thoughts about him?
I'm a fan of Jordan James. I think he's a good football player. I think he's an explosive runner. I wish that I could say their offensive line is better than I think it's going to be solid. I do like Josh Connolly, and I like Marcus Harper, the left tackle and left guard, and the right tackle is Jamani Cornelius, good solid player, but none of them are like 5-star kids. They're just good solid players. But Oregon always seems to like not only recruit offensive line, develop offensive linemen. So we'll see what they do.
They do. They do a really good job with how they do their offensive line.
The key to them is not to go back to the Dolphins, they get rid of the ball quick at Oregon. So that's always a good thing. That can hide any distress you may have on your offensive line. So
100%. And everybody looks at this Oregon Ducks team and like, oh yeah, they got the fast guys and just like that. They got really big tight ends, and Terrence Ferguson, 6'5", 255 pounds, really big, high catch radius, right? So they got a guy for those tough yards, get the ball in the air, throw it up to him, red zone type of guy in there as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
For sure. All right, let's get to their defense, man. What's your overall thoughts on the defense? They have a lot of transfers that came in. I want to know what's your thoughts on it.
Well, they got Houston transfer, Jameer Caldwell, who's a good player. They got defensive end Jordan Branch, who's a good player. They both came from Houston. Mateo, this name is tough, man. Uiagalelei.
Yeah.
All I know is he's a good player. And how I feel about the Polynesians, man. Them kids are animals, so they're beasts.
He's actually DJ's brother.
Probably is.
Yeah.
That name, though, man, is just crazy. But,
Uiagalelei.
Yeah, good for him. Well, then they had Tatum Tuati, who's a good player, and Blake Purchase, who's a good player. So their offensive line, their defensive line has players there. It's just a matter of putting it all together and making it mean something. Because Oregon's defense was not horrible last year, but they kept the ball so much away from their defense. It's hard to really tell if they were that great, or when you're only out there for 15, 20 minutes a game, you don't have to do a whole lot. So.
No, I agree with that, Ray. I think the biggest thing for them is the removal of so many players that they had in that secondary, and that was my biggest thing. That hey, how's Oregon going to respond to not having so many of those secondary players? One of which was Kyrie Jackson, RIP to him. Guys that we got to interview at the Senior Bowl, but really good player for Oregon. They lost a lot.
The thing that gets me two things. For one, they lost 2 games last year. They lost both of those games to Washington. And we know that's not going to happen this year.
Right.
Okay, but they are playing in a tougher conference now, so we'll see how that handles.
100%. Yeah, and there's a different type of style of play in this conference. We talked about this before, Ray. This is a conference that like to run the ball, and if you want to stop Oregon, keep their offense off the field. So we'll see how that affects them. They're used to that West Coast type of offense, West Coast type of teams that they play where it's a lot of spread, it's a lot of going down the field, and whoever has the highest number of scoring at the end of the day wins the game. Where you're going to a Big Ten conference, which is total opposite. Control the clock, go down, low scoring, play really good defense. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see the adjustments that Oregon's going to have to, go about. And I think it's going to be, hey, it's either going to be something serious where Oregon's really going to have to figure it out, or it's going to be like, hey, Oregon's way too explosive for this type of team. So.
I mean, you do play Washington again at the end of the year, which is surprising. I didn't realize that until just now. But again, they play at Michigan, they play at Purdue, they play Ohio State. They're going to be tough games for a team that's not used to physical teams like that.
Yeah, let me run it down for the viewers real quick. For the first two games, they're going to be home. They're going to play against Iowa and Boise State. Next two games, they're going to be away versus Oregon State and UCLA. They're going to be home for the next two games versus Michigan State and Ohio State. They're going to be at Purdue, home versus Illinois, away versus Michigan, home versus Maryland, away for Wisconsin, and home finish the year against Washington. So with that being said, what's your thoughts on this season for
them? I'll be honest with you, Jerome. I see 9 or 10 wins.
Really?
Yeah, I don't see any more than that. I really don't. I think at UCLA is a tough game. Trying to see if they play UCLA last year. They did. I think they did. No, they didn't. Oh, it was USC. Okay, they didn't play UCLA last year. I think that'll be a tough game at UCLA. I think at Purdue was a tough game. And then they play Michigan or Ohio State. I don't expect them to win any of them 4 games, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Brett, I'm gonna only give them 2 losses. I'm gonna give them exactly what they had last year. I'm just gonna give them 2 losses. Ohio State and Michigan. And it's based on exactly what we were just talking about. The teams are gonna be able to run on them with really good defenses. There's gonna be those 2 teams. I think they're gonna start off the year really hot. I mean, Iowa, Boise State, Oregon State, UCLA, Michigan State. I think they're gonna count on those teams. Those teams I really think they're going to pop on this. I think this team is too powerful with the offensive quality they have. So they're on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight wins, right? I can't see these teams really keeping up with a Oregon, defensively. I think Boise State might have the best chance. But defensively, if you look at all these teams, I don't think anyone can keep up with what Oregon has. Ohio State is the next best one.
I think Purdue is a team who has a good defense and runs the ball. They can play ball control, like you talked about, Big Ten football, ball control, keep the offense off the field. I think that's how they win that game. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to win. We'll get into wins and losses down the road when we get into the actual game situations.
Correct.
But again, I agree with you. I think they'll lose to Ohio State. I think they'll lose to Michigan. And I definitely think that they could lose to Purdue and UCLA. I do. So.
I'll say they'll lose to Wisconsin more than any of the other teams. I
think Wisconsin, again, ball control, solid defense.
Yeah.
We'll see what they do. I just want to see how they handle when they get into, like, big winner-type games because they're not used to those.
100%. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out with Oregon. But, if you look at the statistics from last year as far as the statistics, they were second as the offense, but 22nd as the defense, which is not bad at all. So,
no, that's fine. Again, we know they put up points and they put up yards last year.
Yeah,
it wasn't, and they lost 2 games, so they had a very good year. But this is where I think teams like Oregon, and other teams that thought they were going to jump to the Big Ten, and it wasn't going to be they were going to be okay. I don't know that, man. I think that when you, like you said, the first 4 games, 5 games, even if they do what they can do against UCLA, even against Michigan State, when they go Ohio State, Purdue, Illinois, Michigan, that could be a big dose of reality for this team.
That's very true. Very true. Yeah, and it's all about momentum too. So yeah, that's definitely a possibility,
Sure.
right? 100%. All right, let's get to our next team. It's gonna be the Florida Gators. There you go. That's a little thing. I like that from the game. No, I knew that. But let's get into how they did last year. Last year, a very disappointing 5-17. I'm gonna start off. I'm gonna let you talk about this team, but I think that Florida started off really hot and then just died off. They're in a really tough conference still. Don't get me wrong, but also this conference just got that much harder. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this all plays out. But Ray, what's your thoughts on how they played last year?
They were a bad team last year with a solid offense. They have Graham Mertz, a quarterback, who's a good player, had a very nice year. They lost Trevor Etienne, who transferred to Georgia, I believe.
Yeah.
And they're going to have a hard time replacing him. I think they're hoping that Eugene Wilson could be, even though he's a wide receiver, I think they're hoping he could be that big impact game breaker that Etienne was for them last year. But again, we got to see how that works out. They have Chamir Dika, who's a wide receiver, who's a good football player. And I just think that, again, Montel Johnson, running back, he's a good, solid player. I just think that there's a lot of holes to fill for a team that wasn't very good last year.
100%. Yeah, I agree with that. You said it best, Ray. They lost a lot of pieces. They also lost their number 1 receiver and Ricky Lamar.
Yeah, Ricky Pearsall was drafted, yes.
Ricky Pearsall, who got drafted in the first round, surprisingly, but really good player. A guy that I was really high on, especially after the Senior Bowl. But yeah, Ray, I agree. It's going to be interesting to see. To get to their offense, like you said, Graham Marsh is there. Pretty good player, did pretty well last year. I know that there might be a little pressure on him this year with the quarterback position, though, because the Florida Gator fans are very excited about DJ Longwood. He's a freshman, so he don't have a lot of experience, obviously. But I know that this fan base is going to be very, very excited to have him in there. Billy Napier is the coach there, but he might be on a hot seat this year. So if Graham is not up to par, you could see a little bit of DJ Longway playing in there a little bit. They might even put him in that terms of packages as well. Also, just to get him kind of acclimated. They're very high on the tip.
Well, they should be. He's a 5-star prospect. He's a good player. Mm-hmm. I just think if you do that, though, that means the coach is scrambling and looking for a way to keep his job. So,
I think that's the case right now, though, right? I just really do think like Billy Napier, been there his 4th year, I think, right? Something like that. This is about the time.
This is his third season.
This is his third. Okay.
It is his third, but he is 11-14. So to go by what you said, it's a big year for him, and that's what I mean. Though, if they struggle early on and they make a change of quarterback, then there's an excuse for now. You got to give me next year too, because now we're developing a young quarterback. So
yeah, exactly. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. But I do fully expect Brian Marsh to continue to be the starter. So don't be surprised to see a little bit of DJ in there. And if Graham struggles a little bit, we'll see how that goes. But let's get to their receivers. Where you already kind of mentioned some of them. Eugene Wilson III is a sophomore playing out there. Really good receiver there. Elijah Badger is going to be their senior, as well as Kashmir Dyke. I think that's how you say his name. So those are some guys right there. Elijah and Kashmir are both transfers. So we're gonna see how that works out. And then they tight ends. This is a team that use two tight ends. So they have a left tight end and a right tight end, which is I didn't know that until now. But Caden Henson and Arliss Worthington. So and both are sophomores. So two tight ends, both sophomores, so they're kind of young. We'll see how that goes. What's your thoughts on the pass catchers there?
I like the tight ends. I think that Hanson is a more of a blocker, where Borningham is more of like a receiver. So I think they can work in tandem very well. And again, if I was Billy Napier, I'm going to rely on my running back Montel Johnson to make plays for me. I want him to run the ball. I want to get the ball out of Graham Mark's hands fast, quickly. Don't give these defenses a chance to get to the quarterback. And I think Graham Mark's going to be fine. I think he's a good, solid quarterback. Doesn't have elite arm strength though. That's the problem. If you keep the wide receivers off the routes, kind of bump them a little bit, that's where I think he runs into problems because once he has to get to that third or fourth read, it's just not there for him. So.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I think there's going to be a chance that DJ gets some kind of packages in there because, he got stronger arms and he's more mobile. I also think that, this offense is going to need to run more, like you said, right? They're going to need to run more. They got, Johnson back there, Tyon Webb, another running back that we got to interview some years ago. Really good guy back there. He's going to be in a rotation here, so they're going to have some rotations in those two, and I think they're going to bring in DJ to also help with some wildcat type of offense with it as well, or option RPO option as well. So we'll say, Ray, what's your thoughts on their offensive line though? It all starts with the offensive line. What's your thoughts on how they look?
I like Austin Barber, their left tackle. I think he's a good, solid player. Mm-hmm. The right tackle, Brandon Cashew Dixon is actually a good player. It's going to be their interior offensive line who's going to need to do a better job of pass protection than they did last year. So we'll see how that works out for them. The bad thing about it is I don't see any offensive line help down the road at all. So they're going to depend on their starters pretty much. So.
Correct. One of the guys that stood out to me is Keanjana Harris, which is their freshman offensive lineman. He's really highly regarded offensive lineman from IG Academy. You guys don't know, I cover IG Academy a lot. Really good player. It's interesting to see he's not going to be in the starting lineup. I want to see how he kind of like goes in for them. Really good player for ING. I really want to see how that kind of transpires with that as well. All right, let's get to their defense, Bray. Who's somebody on the defense that kind of stands up to you, Ray?
I think that their defense was really bad last year. Yeah. I think Devin Moore returns at safety. He's actually a good, solid player. I'm sorry, defensive back, corner, safety. Is a good player. He had an injury-riddled season last year. I think Jason Marshall, the linebacker, is a good player. Sherman James and Jettis Boone return from knee injuries, who are good players. But we need them to stay healthy and stay on the field. And besides for that, man, I don't see a whole lot here. I think that they're going to lean on – I do like L.J. McCray, their freshman off defensive lineman. I think he could help out a little bit. But I think it's going to be, again, try to limit mistakes. They made a lot of mistakes in their defense last year. A lot of missed tackles. You watch Florida every week, man. They miss a lot of tackles, man.
Yeah.
Now, there's two ways of looking at it. Was it sloppy player, or was it that you weren't as good as the guy that you were trying to tackle? You
know? 100%. Yeah, I think I agree with the whole notion of everything right there, Ray. But yeah, there's a couple of guys, I think there's some guys in the wings, you look at the starters, like, there's not a lot of huge names that, you would be like, all right, there's some guys. But they got some backups that can possibly actually get some starting positions. Miles Graham, who's a freshman coming in, really highly regarded, a linebacker for them as well, so he can actually steal some reps. Derek Wingo, he's a senior. He lost the starting job to transfer Grayson Howard, but he's still in the wing. He's still a solid guy, so we'll see how he does. I think he was one of those players that had issues tackling last year as well. Jamari Loin is another good one as well. But one of the biggest names on our defense that we'll see how it goes. But Cormani McLean at the cornerback position. Now, if you guys don't know who that is the 5-star recruit that was recruited by Coach Deion Sanders over there at Colorado. Had some issues with getting down the playbook, being late to practices and meetings and things like that, and wound up transferring as a walk-on for Florida. So that's another reason why he's not really penciled in as a starter, because he's actually a walk-on for Florida. But very talented guy. And still young. He has a chance to start. He does have a chance to start because his defense is not that great. We'll see how that transpires though, because again, the kid that and I don't know the kid. I don't know how much everything all the rumors are true and stuff like that, but seems to have, according to how everybody talking, especially in Colorado, he can have some discipline issues as far as being disciplined with his playbook, being disciplined with going to meetings, things like that. So we'll see how that goes, but he's a potential starter for them as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
What you know about Komari, right? Komari.
I think he's a good player. I think that they're going to depend on him a lot, which scares me a little bit because he's still a young player.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I think he's a good player, though.
Yeah. Like I said, he's not penciled in as a starter right now, but he could potentially get in that role, especially if this defense plays as if they did last year, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get into Florida's upcoming schedule. And then the first game was a big game, actually. Florida versus Miami, first game of the season, with bang. They will be home for that game. They're actually going to be home for the first 3 games. Next game they're going to be playing. I have it as FAMF. Stanford. So they're going to be playing Stanford, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, and that game's going to be away. At home, they're going to be UCF. They're going to be away for Tennessee, home for Kentucky, away for the next 2 games versus Georgia and Texas. They're going to be home for LSU, Ole Miss, and then close the season away at FSU. So, Ray, with that schedule, how many wins?
I think Billy Napier's going to be looking for a new job at this year.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, Jerome, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I see 6 losses right off the top of my head.
That schedule is brutal.
It is. I mean, Miami, don't get me wrong, it's at home. Could they beat Miami? Of course, they could beat Miami, but Miami's a better roster than them right now.
Yeah.
Now, we'll see if Mario Cristobal gets his head out of his ass this year and coaches a little better than he did last year, because he did a solid job at Miami last year. He had a couple of really bad losses, but we're not talking about Miami now. But Stanford, they should beat. Texas A&M's a loaded roster every year, so that's not going to be an easy game for them. Mississippi State is a good, solid team. Not a good, great team, but a little better than Florida. But we'll see how that goes. UCF is a game they should win. But if they don't win that game, then they're really in trouble, because if we get to that, they play Tennessee, and they're not going to win that game.
Yeah.
I think Tennessee is going to be – I think Tennessee is a team in the SEC who has a legit shot of at least definitely making the playoffs and actually making some noise once they get into the playoff rounds. So Kentucky is a game at home they should win versus Georgia at Texas. They're not winning them games. LSU is a big game for them, but they're not a better roster than LSU, so I don't think they're going to win that game either. And again, Ole Miss is Ole Miss, and that's a game at home. And then Florida State's a better team than them too. So I don't see, honestly, Jerome. If they win 5 games this year, 6 games, I wouldn't be surprised.
We are on the same boat, right? Yeah, they're gonna be right around where there was last year.
Agreed.
Team last year, I'm seeing the same results this year. I'm not seeing enough to be like, yeah, they're gonna be able to get over that hump, man. And like you said, if Billy Napier had the same type of year, I can't see him coming back. I really don't.
Nah.
We'll see.
If that happens, you're going to hear the Urban Meyer rumors.
Oh God, I know you're gonna love that, Ray.
I can't wait.
Man.
I mean, man, Florida's a team that's used to being. I'm not saying they're used to winning national titles because they've won a couple, obviously, but they're not Michigan or one of them type of teams. They're not Ohio State. They're not. But they can't be doormats either, and that's where the problem's going to be.
Yeah.
You can't be an SEC team who history of being a Florida Gator team and just start accepting losing. That's not going to happen, I don't think. So
100%. Yeah, and like I said, the conference just got even stronger too, right? And that doesn't help them. That don't help them at all. If they hit 5 wins, because it's funny because we're saying 5. I gave them 5 or 6 wins. But there's a couple of those wins that are close, possibly losses for them. Those guys. So if they come out of this with only 4 wins,
that's a possibility, though, man. It really is. I mean, again, because I don't want to get through the whole schedule again, but I think Sanford, if they can't, they probably won't lose that game. UCF is a game they have to win, and at home, and Kentucky at home is a game they have to win. The other home games they have are Ole Miss and LSU. They're not going to be easy wins for them, man. If they even try to, I think LSU is a way better team than them right now.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, again, man, we may be talking about 4 wins. 4 wins, like 4 and 8, after going 5 and 7 last year. And the bad thing about last year was they started out 3 and 1. And you lost to Utah. Well, we know Utah's a good team.
They were the top team.
Yeah, I mean, so like they lost to Kentucky last year. Now that game was at Kentucky. They lose to Kentucky again this year. They may win 2 games.
Ooh. I think they was ranked like 1 point last year, Ray. I'm not mistaken. I think they was ranked.
They were what?
I think they was ranked at 1 point, Ray.
No, they were. They were definitely a top 25 team. Without a doubt. I think early in the year, because you got to remember, they beat Tennessee last year. Tennessee had a really bad game. They turned the ball over like 5 times against them, but they beat them. It don't matter if Tennessee turned the ball over. That's how you win games.
Right.
After that, people are like, oh, well, maybe they're not going to be that bad because, Billy Napier is a guy who has a good offensive mind and has been a pretty legit, respected coach.
Yeah.
But, again, 2 years, 11 and 14, if he doesn't win 8 games this year, 7 games this year, I don't think he'll be back. I don't.
Yeah. It's going to be very interesting to see how that dynamic goes. But we'll see, man. All right, let's get to our last and final team, which is going to be
favorite team, or second favorite team. I'm sorry.
Don't do that. Look, you see what somebody said? You trying to get me killed?
No, man. Okay, I forgot about Michigan.
You're funny, man. You're funny. But yeah, we're going to be talking about the Nittany Lions. Last year, they ended the season 10-3. Yes, the overall looked great, but I think it was a disappointing 10-3, a team that I thought was going to be a lot better than they were last year. But let's get into it, Ray. What's your thoughts on the 10-3 season of last year?
I think the Penn State is a very talented team who underachieves.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you can look at the Tennessee record and say, well, what's wrong with that? Well, what's wrong with that is that you, against the other team, against every team that you played, you averaged 36 points. Against the 2 good teams you played, you averaged 13.
Uh-huh.
So that's a problem. Yeah. And it's not only that They didn't like for one. You're Penn State. You're a running team, and that's fine. But you can't turn the ball over, and your coach can't coach scared, which he does every time he plays against Michigan or Ohio State. So that's the problem. You can't be afraid to lose. You know what happens when you're afraid to lose? You lose.
Yeah.
And you can't, like Jerome, I'll be honest with you, and I know I'm not a college player or a coach. I've never played a game thinking I'm going to lose this game going into it. Never in my life. But every time James Franklin plays against a good opponent, he coaches like he's afraid to lose. I mean, the Michigan game is a microcosm of what he is, man. They're in that game until he chokes it up, and then they get steamrolled.
100%. No, I agree with that, Ray. I think that they were very underwhelming. I thought really high on them all season. Those are teams that I thought could beat Ohio State, and actually I thought they could beat Michigan too. So I was really high on them last year. But let's get into the roster real quick, Ray. Obviously, the team is going to be led by Drew Aller. Is it Aller or Aller?
Aller.
Aller. Drew Aller, obviously he was a 5-star prospect, number one quarterback in the country. Number one quarterback in the country in 2022. So highly regarded quarterback, was very underwhelming last year. Obviously it was his first year starting as a freshman, a sophomore. So now he's going into the junior year and got a whole year of experience under James Franklin, and see how that goes. But what's your thoughts on Drew? Do you expect him to take that next step up, being such a highly regarded, quarterback in the country, or, maybe he is what he is kind of situation?
I tend to believe that he's a good, solid player. Solid is as far as I'm going to go, though. I'm not a fan. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's very good. I think he's solid. Yeah. The question is, but we all know that Julian Fleming, the senior receiver, is very good. And Nicholas Singleton, the offense is going to run through him, which it should. And actually, they have Kate Allen, who's actually a good running back, too. So they have a nice two-headed monster at running back. And again, they have Julian Fleming. It's going to depend on how well their offensive line blocks, and that's where the problem comes in. I think that J.B. Nelson, the left guard, is a good, solid player. I think their right guard, Sal Wormley, is a good, solid player. Their tackles are big kids who don't play well against speed rushers, which is why. And honestly, I shouldn't say only that. Like, you could physically manhandle their tackles, but all you need to do is make one little move, and you can just blow right by them. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of their technique, how they play either. So I think that's part of the reason why James Franklin fired his offensive coordinator and brought in Andy Kalnicki from Kansas with the idea of, we're going to spread things out. We're going to try to get rid of the ball quick and take advantage of ours athleticism and hopefully gets rid of the ball. Because I don't think they expect their offensive line to hold up against good defensive lines, and neither do I. So I think the idea is going to be like Kansas, get the ball out of his hands, do everything, maybe speed up the process. And I think, honestly, I don't think Penn State would ever fire James Franklin, because they don't do that. And it's not like he's a horrible coach. He's a very good recruiter. He's a very good recruiter. That's the bad thing. He's a very good recruiter. Hopefully, with the idea of changing offensive theories and philosophies and bringing in another fresh set of eyes from a Kansas team who usually puts up pretty good offense, hopefully that will work for them. And, I don't – people – like, I know a lot of Penn State fans, and they think I don't like Penn State. And it's not that I don't like them. It's that I get tired of seeing the talent they just waste every year, man. Every year they'll start out pretty well, and then you're just waiting for the cracks to appear. And honestly, I hate to say it, the cracks are James Franklin's coaching. Sorry.
No, I agree though. I agree with you, right? To kind of go back just a little bit, I agree with you on a lot of things you said. there were 2 running backs, which I thought was going to be the catalyst of this team last year. You know, Nicholas Singleton and Kyron Allen, 2 really good running backs. They were sophomores going into going into last year. So you know, when you see them how they played as freshmen, you're like, oh man, who's going to stop those 2? The offensive line. that was going to stop them. And I don't think we anticipated that. So the offensive line did not help. It did bring in some help for the offensive line. Obviously, Dylan Wushi, originally playing for Wisconsin. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think he interviewed for his brother. I forget exactly which one. I always forget which one of them he interviewed, but we interviewed one of them. Really good kid. I think he's going to be good for them there. And then they brought in another interconference player to kind of help out on that offense. Julian Fleming, you already mentioned him, like 6'2", 206 pounds, wide receiver. Obviously, he's coming from Ohio State. You know, obviously, with Ohio State having abundance of wide receivers, you're going to have some guys kind of, you know, transfer to other teams. So Penn State coming in with two interconference players, bring them in. Hopefully they kind of help and make, you know, Drew a little bit better, you know, with different targets and things like that. They lost a lot of good players. You know, their tight end that they lost last year, Theo Johnson, was a good player for them. So, you know, they got Tyler Warren now. I'm not familiar with Tyler Warren, so we'll see how that kind of goes. But yeah, I think this whole thing kind of goes down to their offensive line. See how much better for the discipline it will be, because you got 2 really good running backs, and it's no way that Drew Aller should have been passing the ball to you with. They kept stopping the run, and that's what you had to do with Penn State. You got to stop the run, and you know, have their young quarterback kind of, you know, take the game over. And I think that's what Michigan's idea was when they played them. So we'll see how much he develops. He's gonna have to definitely develop, and like I said, having a Julian Fleming will definitely help him for sure, and a better offensive line.
And I think that I actually like their tight end Tyler Warren. I think he's a good football player. Mm-hmm. My problem again, they had to replace Olu Fashanu, who was drafted, and they're doing it with a guy in Drew Shelton, who I don't know how good he's going to be yet. And I think the teams are going to test him and find out pretty early.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's get to our defense. The 4-2-5 type of defense they have here on this defensive team. What's your thoughts on them as a whole, Ray?
I think the Penn State's defense is good, man. I mean, they gave up the fewest total yards last year of any team in the conference. They had the most sacks of any team in their conference. The problem is that when they played against good teams, the production wasn't there. They didn't get to the quarterback, and they stopped them. They were good against the run against Michigan and Ohio State, but not good enough to win the game when it mattered. So, I mean, that's again, I think Penn State's defense is good. I think Devon Ellis, their defensive tackle, Abdul Carter, defensive end, are studs. I think they're going to be good. I like Zane Durant. I think their defensive line is good. I like Kobe King. Their inside linebacker is good. Jalen Reed, Kevin Winston, their safeties are both good. I just think that, again, it's a matter of making plays against big, good teams. That's all.
100%. Yeah, really good defense, right? You know, up close and personal when they played Michigan. Fast, physical defense, you know, and that's how this Penn State defense usually does play. It's going to be interesting to see a couple of key players that left last year. Obviously, Keelan King, their corner, went to the NFL this year. So we'll see how that plays out, but I don't think that there's going to be a huge drop-off with the players they lost on that defense, for sure. All right, let's get ahead, Rick.
Again, I just think they're good players. I think they brought in 2 corners that will help them out. Yeah. One, Kalen Kimber from Florida, AJ Harris from Georgia. So I think their defense is going to be good, and they've added some players there, and they're usually pretty good. Penn State's known for having good defenses, and I don't think this year's going to be any different. The question again is, can they make plays when it really matters in big games against the better teams? Well, the good thing for them is they play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams before they even play a respectable team. So we're okay. You know?
Definitely. And with that being said, let's talk about the schedule. So they're gonna start the season out away versus West Virginia. They're gonna be home for the next 4 games. So they got 4 home games right after that early away game. Bowling Green, Kent State, Illinois, UCLA, and then they go over to California for USC. They're going to be away for Wisconsin as well. They'll be home for Ohio State. They'll be home for Washington. They'll be away for Purdue. They'll be away for Minnesota. And then they'll be home versus Minnesota. I'm sorry, Maryland. Ray, I didn't realize this, but this is the first time, I could be wrong, but they're not playing Michigan this year.
Yeah, I don't remember them ever not playing Michigan before.
Interesting. That's interesting. And in the same division, right?
That's very strange, but they're playing Ohio State. And last year, I don't think you guys played Ohio State to the playoffs, right? I mean, you played them during the regular season. You played them twice. I don't understand. That's weird.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, that's the thing I don't like, though. That's why I don't like the split conferences. I think you should play the best teams. If you're the better team in your conference, you should play the better teams in your conference. Because, again, West Virginia is a good, solid team, but Penn State should beat them. They're way more talented. Bowling Green is going to be pushed over Kent State. Illinois is an athletic team who is not physical enough to beat Penn State, I don't believe. USC is all up in the air. We're not exactly sure what they're going to look like this year, but they're not usually a solid offense. And their quarterback played good in the ball game last year.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that works out for him.
Yeah.
Ohio State is a loss. At Wisconsin is a tough game. Washington could be a tough game. We'll see how their offense looks with a lot of different players this year.
I want to know who they got. I don't even know who Washington has.
Ooh, I don't know who their quarterback is right now, to be honest with you.
I'm going to pull that up real quick. Go ahead. Keep talking, right?
Purdue.
Rogers.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Other guy.
That's all, yeah. Then they got at Purdue, which again is a good physical team, but shouldn't be good enough to beat Penn State. And they play at Minnesota and Maryland. I mean, honestly, Jerome, they could actually be better than last year record-wise. They could be.
Really?
Yeah, because it's a very weak schedule.
You're right, right? Because I think the biggest ones are USC and Ohio State. They don't play Michigan this year.
They don't play Michigan. They don't play anybody really that well. They play at Minnesota, at Purdue. They're like not good teams for away games. That's what I mean. There should not be a year when Penn State does not play Michigan.
Yeah. That's interesting. But yeah, that is what I got. I'm giving them two losses as well. I also know there's a couple of teams that could sneak up on them. I think that Washington might.
Washington and at Purdue are tough.
Because Wisconsin plays them tough.
Mm-hmm. We know, Jerome. Anytime you play an interconference game, it's kind of like in division in the NFL. Your teams you're very familiar with. There's always a shot. You turn the ball over. That's how you lose games like that. You know what I mean? That's the one thing you never know about games. Who's going to turn the ball over more than the other team? That really, especially when it's close games, that's where the games are decided usually.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, when I look at their schedule, and again, I see Washington's a tough game. Ohio State, USC could be a tough game. And at West Virginia, the first game of the year could be a low-scoring, kind of like grinded-out game, but they should win.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm giving them 11 wins, right?
Yeah, I'm going to go 10, 11 wins, yeah.
Yeah. Give them 11 wins.
Honestly, if they were to beat USC and then take care of Washington, they could actually be like 10 wins, 11 wins, 12 wins.
Yeah, weirdly enough, we got all these new teams in the Big Ten, and it looked like an easier win for them.
Yeah, Washington, we all know, was good last year,
Yeah.
but we're not expecting them to be as good. At least
They
not.
lost 3 wide receivers, a quarterback, and a
Yeah,
running
so
back.
again,
And
we don't know. Yeah, right. So again, we don't know exactly what they're going to look like, but we're expecting them not to be as good.
yeah,
USC game, I actually liked what I saw from the quarterback in the bowl game. I did. So I think that could be a high scoring game if nothing else.
mhm. Yeah, I agree.
At Wisconsin's not a pushover, but it's not a game. Wisconsin's not talented enough to really beat Penn State, and as long as the coach doesn't do nothing really stupid, you know.
Yeah,
But everything else here, Jerome, they're like winnable games. Like, there's
yeah,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games that are no doubt games they should win, without a doubt, no doubt.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm on the same page with you on that one, right? I really do think that
I
that
mean,
is.
it's a shame if you look at the 2 games they lost last year to Michigan. They lost by 9, and they lost to Ohio State by 8.
Yeah,
So you look at the final score, you're like, it wasn't that bad. And they played, that's the problem. They played well in those games. The coach lost those games.
mm-hmm. I agree with you, though.
And I mean, like people say, oh no, the coach don't, the players on the field lose games. And I agree with that. But again, you're a coach. You're there to put your team in position to win games. And he did not do that against those teams, period.
Yeah, agree. But we'll see how that goes. But that's gonna do it for us today, guys. Do appreciate everybody getting on with us today. Ray, you got any quick words you want to talk about?
Well, just this 1 month from today, college football starts. Actually,
Yeah,
1 month.
can't wait. It's gonna be very interesting. The new playoff system. We got the new conferences. We got a whole bunch of different transfers going on, teams that we expect. I really do think like this season is gonna be so wacky that there's gonna be 1 or 2 teams that come out of nowhere that we're just like, who would have thought? Some of these teams that we're giving maybe like a 5 or 6 win season might actually wind up with a 10-win season and wind up in the national playoffs. You know, so it's gonna be very interesting. And then those teams could upset some of the bigger teams. So I kind of do like the fact that there is a playoff system where you are allowing some upset instead of just being the top 4 teams, and then it's kind of clear who's gonna win it all.
I'm expecting really nice, fun seasons in both college and the NFL this year. The one thing I will say about college is that I think there are half a dozen teams I think are legit national title championship type teams. Maybe even 8. So that's why I would have loved 8 for the playoffs. But hey man, give me 12, I'm fine.
Right.
And I think the NFL, if it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes, man, the NFL could be as wide open as it's ever been right now.
Agreed.
I mean, so Patrick Mahomes is the one thing that he's the straw, right, man? He makes everything go for that team. So, and you never root for injury, so you can't do that.
He just gave more weapons, because the only thing that was hindering him was he didn't have enough weapons.
You know what, Jerome? They had better weapons this year than they did last year. So, about that defense.
I'm not saying much.
They did lose Darius Sneed, but
they did.
The one player they lost on defense.
Yeah.
But their offense, again, they don't have stars at wide receiver, but they're better than they were last year.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Did you hear? While we're talking about the Chiefs, real quick, did you hear that Kadarius Toney is going to be playing as running back now?
That's actually probably a smart move for them, to be honest with you. Because the only thing he does is catch the ball out of the backfield. Like, he'll catch them quick, like them the bubble screens and everything, and then make a play with it. Yeah. Honestly, I like that move. I did not hear that, but I like that move actually.
His hands are great. Just saying how it is.
Yeah, just get the ball in his hands in space, because he doesn't track the ball well, which is kind of weird. It's really crazy to see a guy who runs that fast who doesn't track the ball well.
Yeah. That's why you gotta respect guys like Deshaun Jackson, man. Like one of the best.
Agreed, man. I'm
Trackers.
gonna track down everything.
Yeah, man. So, yeah. So, just wanted to kind of put that out there. I know we talked about Kadarius Toney and
That's interesting, though. I like that actually.
Yeah, him and
he could be a scary player out of the backfield, man. He really could be, especially if the speed they have out wide now with Hollywood Brown. I mean that and the rookie, man, that's a lot of speed on that offense now.
He's very worthy, yeah.
That's scary for the AFC though, man. That sucks.
Yeah, it does. I'm glad we're on the other side looking.
I hear you. I hear that, man. You know, when they redid the divisions, it was like a while ago now, like 15, 20 years ago now, they wanted Miami to join the AFC South.
I mean, geographically, yeah, makes sense.
Agreed, but of course, Miami didn't want to lose the rivals they had with the Jets and the Patriots and the Bills, which I understood at the time and I agree with it. But man, imagine how they would look right now playing in that division with the Colts, the Texans. I mean, because Baltimore, you know what? It was either that or they may have wanted them to move into the Central. No, it was the South. So they'd have been in division with the Colts and Jacksonville. They'd be a lot better shape than they are in the division with the Patriots and the Bills that they've been dealing with the last few years.
Yeah. No,
so, I mean, like, again, hindsight being 2020, at the time I understood I wanted to stay in the AFC East. But, man, it would be a lot easier not dealing with them teams right now because that's the problem Tua has is playing in cold weather.
Yeah.
Imagine if he didn't have to worry about that.
That's true.
Playing like, you travel up 95, an hour or 2 hours, and you're playing Jacksonville?
Yeah.
I mean, the farthest team you're playing is the Colts, and they have to play in a dome.
If the Dolphins were to go in that style, I think the Colts would have been the one that switched and maybe go to the East.
I think you're right. I think it was going to be they wanted the Colts to be an East team. I think it was the Colts that wanted to move it back into the East. Do you remember when I was a kid, the Colts were an Eastern Division team because they played Baltimore. Yeah.
Baltimore, yeah.
Honestly, that's why I get into a lot of not arguments, but like texting, crap on YouTube and stuff about the Dolphins and the teams in my division. But when I was a kid, when I was younger, the Colts were the only rival I had. The Jets sucked. The Patriots we beat every week. We beat the Bills from 1970 to 1980 like a drum. Okay? Yeah. Those were the best years of my life, dude. I'm not going to lie to that. But, I mean, that was how easy it was. But the Colts had Burt Jones, Lydell Mitchell. They were a good team.
100%.
Ed Hendricks, very good team, man. Tough team.
Definitely. Well, we'll definitely see, man. I know the season's coming out. I know we're both excited. We're going to literally have another podcast right now talking about it all. But we can't do that to you guys tonight. But maybe one day we will. But that's going to do it for us today, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And again, thanks, Phenom, for sponsoring this podcast. Again, go to PhenomEliteBrand.com. Use the promo code IPHFootball. Save 10% off of all Phenom items. Again, you can get nice gloves, mouthpieces. They got back plates. They got cleats, all that great stuff. So make sure you get your gear before the season starts. Look good, feel good, play good. So thanks once again to our viewers. Make sure you go to our YouTube channel and like and subscribe if you haven't done it so already. That really does help and support us. And if you want us to talk about a team that you want us, that maybe your favorite team, you want us to talk about next week, hit in our comment sections on YouTube, and we respond to every comment. And let us know what teams you want us to talk about. We're going to do this all the way to the season starts. Like Ray said, we got about 4 weeks. So the next couple of weeks will be highlighting certain teams and letting you guys know how we feel about this season. So once again, I'm Jerome Jones. That's Ray Roberts. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. Make sure you tune back in next week. We do this every Wednesday at 7. We was rolling today, but we do this usually every week at 7. So make sure you come back and check us out. We love talking college football. and the draft with you guys. So once again, thanks again. See you in the next one. Y'all have a good week.